This video will officially be my opener to the 2024 NFL season in terms of either previews or reacting to things that solely happened in 2024. Lamar Jackson was just named the number 2 ranked player by NFL players, by his peers in the top 100 rankings that the NFL just put out. Personally, I'm someone who does not care one iota about top 10 lists, top 5 rankings, etc. Nonetheless, it was interesting to see how the players adjudged Lamar and other opposing players, but also see reactions to it. First of all, the reaction to seeing Tyreek Hill, a wide receiver, be ranked number 1, I think illustrates the difference between players that are on the field and then they either have to guard him or maybe an offensive player that watches Tyreek Hill shred their secondary, and the fans who can't fathom that a non-quarterback is the most dangerous player in the league, and he is. To me, he's the player who can tilt the game the most in his team's favor in the most sudden fashion. Having said that, the purpose of this video and what I'm most ecstatic about is to see Lamar ranked so highly by his peers. I think number 2 after being ranked number 1 following the 2019 season. If you watch the video on NFL Plus like I did and you listen to the comments from opposing players, they were pretty unbelievable. First of all, the one from Myles Garrett was very telling. He compared Lamar to a cat in a complimentary way. I don't think he said throw, but if you throw or a cat jumps off of, let's do it that way, a high ledge, they always land on their feet, but also their next step is an athletic move. That's the difference between supreme athletes and people like us. We could land on the ground. Gravity's going to help us in that regard, but it's going to take us 1 or 2 gather steps to try to be able to explode in any direction. Lamar, like a cat, is able to explode on the very next step and stay balanced and agile while doing so. To be upfront, I had wanted to do a Lamar video before the preseason Week 1 home game. I think at this point, 5 or 6 days from now against the Eagles. I had a lot of plays saved up, intended it to be a career-long look at some things, a career anthology, if you will. And then when I saw the announcement that Lamar was ranked number 2 in terms of NFL players' opinions, I knew where I wanted to go with this video. Clearly, Mahomes being ranked at number 4, having just won his 3rd Super Bowl title, has to be addressed. That's been one of the reaction points or one of the flash points. And fans or football analysts from each different fan base have reacted to their quarterback being ranked behind Lamar and Mahomes. I am actually in the middle of a very long attempted film study about the Chiefs' offense. I find some of it fascinating, along with all of the things that Mahomes does so incredibly well. Arm talent, accuracy, timing, ability to move around in the pocket, find space, make plays. His daringness, maybe turns the ball over at times. I do think there's times where he takes a little bit needless risk, but all of those things, if you ask me, are talked about ad nauseum. The one that I'm noticing a lot is his understanding of when to take chances and his ability to get them in the right look. I think that's severely underrated. I think he's responsible for getting his teammates in the right spot, and that helps the offense run efficiently, especially on 3rd downs. From a personal standpoint, it would not have mattered to me at all. I wouldn't have been offended at all if Mahomes was 2 and Lamar was 4 in the top 100. I really don't very much care what the rankings are. I just want to see the Ravens win a Super Bowl. And then at that point, I would probably watch or listen to the different opinions about it and just smile, knowing that our guys won a Super Bowl. That's probably how Chiefs fans feel since they've won 3. If the Ravens can do that while Lamar is here, I think that absolves a lot of that conflict from a Lamar perspective. Then the onus is on Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and whoever. As Ravens fans, we just want to, and the players, Lamar's teammates, and the media representatives, we just want to see Lamar win 1 because when he came here, he was 21 years old. We saw him go through at least 2, if not 3, negative time periods, how people were judging him and talking about him. And we just want to see Lamar get his credit and be above and past all of those criticisms. I don't want to talk about this just being a 2023 season award. First of all, Lamar's career highlights, again, I've kind of pre-edited some of this. They stack up against anybody's, including Mahomes. His ability to navigate the pocket and break tackles out in space, that's just unrivaled for a quarterback, for real. some of what surprised me from the 2023 film, which isn't necessarily flowing through here, was how many were clutch throws by Lamar. How many were third down throws near midfield? We weren't in field goal range, and we needed a conversion to be able to get into field goal range, to get in scoring range, if you will. Third and long situations. That was a little surprising. Even as much film as I watched, as I watched it now, trying to prep this video for Sunday morning, I was kind of taken aback, thrown off balance, if you will, by seeing how many third down situations there were where Lamar came through in the clutch and made a big throw, not just the running ability. Again, I had added in some plays from previous seasons. I had them organized and edited them together. I do want to point out a couple of sick throws that'll be in this first clip from 2019. 2 third down throws against the Arizona Cardinals, one in the second quarter and one in the fourth quarter. Basically, the game-sealing 3rd and 11 to Marquise Brown. Unbelievably good. Perhaps this one was even better, 3rd and 17. I'll give the end zone angle of it and slow it down a little bit so you can see the level of difficulty, the trajectory, and the touch that Lamar had to put on the football to get it over the linebackers and in between the two safeties. As it relates to the top 100, the Lamar versus Mahomes thing, why am I talking about old film? Well, Mahomes gets the benefit of the doubt, or the people who wanted Mahomes to be ranked higher, number 1 or number 2. Mahomes gets the benefit of the doubt for 3 Super Bowls, for his previous accomplishments prior to the wild card round of this year, 2023. Again, I believe, based on the articles that I've read and the videos I've watched, that all the players were surveyed during the regular season, because you couldn't survey them during the playoffs, right? It makes sense. Half the teams, or more than half the teams actually, are home. They're done. So I get the impression it's a regular season judgment. It's still not wrong for Chiefs fans to say, our guy wins in the playoffs. He's a 3-time Super Bowl champ. Lamar just hasn't been able to clear that hurdle yet. That's an accurate statement. We can't argue with that. It doesn't necessarily mean that the things Lamar has done, some of the plays I'm showing you here, don't count either. And when I'm showing you some of these plays, like this touchdown run against the Titans in the 2020 playoffs, the wildcard round, are things that Patrick Mahomes can't do. So when they do the polling of players in the regular season, that's part of the reason why. The athleticism and the ability to just not be tackled out in space or in the pocket. I also want to mention the media people that are downplaying the top 100 on social media. And like I said, when they did that, almost kind of coincided with when their players were named. And almost some people doing a checklist. Hey, Burrow was named here, and I know Lamar is still out there, so they've ranked Lamar ahead of Burrow. Let me start complaining, whereas I wasn't doing that 5 minutes ago. Or Josh Allen was just named, I think, number 12 or whatever it was, and I know Lamar is still out there. I'm going to start complaining about that. I think he was higher than 12. I think he was 7 or 8, but you get the point. Certain people were complaining because when their quarterback got listed, they understood that Lamar was still out there on the board. Like I said, I've watched a couple hundred Chiefs plays from 2023. I think 240 at this point, along with 3 playoff games from previous seasons, including their Super Bowl win over the Eagles. I have to give credit to Mahomes. As you watch it, you realize how difficult he is to control in the pocket. Nonetheless, different from Lamar, obviously. He still extends plays and makes things happen. He still gets the ball to certain guys in positions where it wasn't drawn up that way on the whiteboard or in the playbook. It's just a different flavor with Lamar. Clearly, as you see some of these plays scroll through from 2020 and 2019, Lamar with multiple 30-yard, 40-yard, even 50-yard touchdown runs on film already. And in terms of the ranking, Lamar being 2 and Mahomes being 4, Mahomes just did not have a great statistical regular season in 2023. 27 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. At this point, he's now thrown 39 interceptions from 2021 to 2023. Just talking interceptions, not fumbles. So that's a 50 regular season game stretch, 39 interceptions. I think that's notable. One thing to mention, however, and I've made this point in other videos, I made this point prior to my Ravens-Chiefs preview for the AFC Championship game, is that the Chiefs' defense has undergone incredible leveling up since the 2022 NFL draft. I think that's a historic draft for the Chiefs, not just necessarily Pacheco being down there in the 7th round, but I'm talking about from a defensive standpoint. Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis, Leo Chenal, and then 2 or 3 quality DBs who have spent time playing on the field that aren't necessarily recognized on the level of Chenal, Karlaftis, McDuffie, and others that were drafted in the previous two drafts. Look, 2020, they drafted the since departed L'Jarius Sneed and Willie Gay. They're both actually gone at this point. 2021, drafted Nick Bolton. Bolton really could have been Super Bowl MVP if the second fumble return for a touchdown was allowed to be ruled a fumble, which I thought in live time it was. Point is, Mahomes doesn't have to throw 3 touchdowns a game in order for them to win as much. It's a different team than it was 2018, 2019, even 2020 for them. I think Lamar was a better player in 2023. I do, by far. I understand that Chiefs fans would argue in the opposite direction, and I'm comfortable with that. It really doesn't bother me at all if a person has that opinion. I think as they're both aided by their defense. First, we have to admit that. Lamar, let's get there first. Lamar was 13-4 in the regular season. Well, I guess 13-3. He didn't play in the last game against the Steelers. The Ravens finished at 16.2 points per game allowed, followed closely by the Chiefs. I think that relates to the play calling for both of those offenses. The style of offense can be different when you're in the lead or when you have a stout defense. And that's a dynamic I want to get into as I do the previews, the large film study previews for the Ravens Chiefs Week 1 matchup on Thursday Night Football. Lamar still retains the ability to score on the ground, to bust a big run, but we don't need him to do it as often. We did see evidence of it against the Chiefs and then against the Texans the round before. He may not be the force of nature that you see in some of the runs that showed up there, but the Ravens don't need him to be. One thing to mention and talk about, if you've never coached against a mobile quarterback, it can be horrifying. And as a coach, you kind of know going into it. You have an idea. You've looked at the film, and you've realized, okay, 2 or 3 of our guys that are going to be out there at defensive line may not be able to sack this quarterback from an athletic standpoint. You knew that the possibility existed going in. It's happened, I think, 2 times definitely to me as a coach. A third time kind of qualifies. We flipped it on its head and forced a game-winning fumble in the fourth quarter on the kid. But it can have a vacuum-like effect on your players' confidence on the sideline. If you've never experienced it, good for you. I'm happy for you. But if you've been there, you understand what it feels like to look around on the sideline and see the looks on your players' faces when they realize we just can't tackle him. I've also been on the other side of it, having a kid at quarterback who just couldn't be tackled. Youth football, high school football, just the opposing team would get their hands on him in the backfield. Should be a tackle for loss. It's an 18-yard gain. Or they should hold him to a 0 or 1 yard gain, and he busts it for a 40-yard touchdown. That destroys a defense. If you think about the scramble against the 49ers that you saw a moment ago, that destroys their confidence. Watch their defensive line walk off after that play. Their body language, they looked broken. It was a 30-yard scramble by Lamar late in the second quarter. He's terribly effective in the running, in the red zone, that is, when they use him, which Monken doesn't have to that often. And even if he only retains 85 to 90% of that athleticism for the next 4 or 5 years, it's a tremendous weapon. I think it bears mentioning when NFL players talk about Lamar and his athleticism, and they add in at the end that he can also throw the ball. Well, they're not going to quote stats to you. I'm going to do that here. It's actually been the 3rd time I talk about some of these. And again, I will compare it with Mahomes somewhat. Lamar in 2023 had his highest ever completion percentage, 67.2, slightly above Mahomes. Lamar finished at 67.17, rounded to 67.2. Mahomes 67.16, also rounded to 67.2. Both of them, I think, were in the top 10 in completion percentage. I think Lamar was 8, Mahomes was 9. Lamar also posted his lowest ever interception percentage at 1.5%. I guess it tied his lowest ever interception percentage of 2019. 4th best in the league, 4th lowest in the league from that standpoint. Mahomes was at 2.3 with 14 interceptions, so significantly higher. Why quote you all this? Again, this is stats I've covered in previous videos. Am I saying that Lamar is better than Mahomes overall? Well, he hasn't been in the playoffs. That's just a reality. That's easy to recognize, however. If you sat, which we did as Ravens fans, and watched Mahomes come to Baltimore last year and win on the road, and look, they just shredded the Ravens defense in the first half. They went touchdown, touchdown on their first two possessions. Then they got stopped on fourth down at the Ravens' 13-yard line. They also had a touchdown called back on a screen late in the second quarter. They did whatever they wanted in the first half offensively. That's just reality. They could have easily had 20 or 24 points in the first half. Ravens were fortunate that Kansas City only had 17. In the postseason, Lamar's got a long way to go. He does, to even approach Mahomes, let alone equal him. I will mention this as a caveat. He's only played 1 year in the offensive system under Todd Monken, he being Lamar. And anyone who said, which people did last year, hopefully they don't this year, that the Ravens' offense under Monken was the same as it had been under Greg Roman, just really wasn't watching film or didn't have any knowledge of the differential between the two systems. It was eye-opening for me. I can think of two national analysts, nationally recognized football analysts, I should say, that referred to it as the Ravens' offensive system that they've had since 2019. It was kind of shocking. The Monken offense is completely different system top to bottom. Terminology, responsibility for Lamar in checks, personnel usage, probably 70% of the passing concepts were not just more efficient, but were drastically different. Stuff that we rarely got to under Greg Roman, even in 2021 when Greg Roman had Lamar throwing the ball a heck of a lot more. And the reality is Lamar flourished in Monken's system in the first year of that system and won the MVP. He made plays off schedule, on schedule. He made plays at critical moments, the third downs that I referenced earlier. He made almost consistently correct reads on pre-snap RPOs. And I suspect he had a number of instances of checking the Ravens to a completely different play, maybe two plays called in the huddle. I have no idea how to confirm that other than, press conference question and answer sessions that we get from the media. Lamar also protected the football really well in 2023. Now, I say that after the opening 5 weeks. If you recall, he had 7 fumbles in the first 5 weeks. It was a significant concern for many of us. The Ravens also struggle with pass pro. I think he finished the year with 11 fumbles and 4 of them lost. One thing to mention for Lamar, for the Ravens, for 2024, and even judging him from 2023, is the number of pass attempts. He had significantly less pass attempts than Mahomes. Well, why? Well, we're winning a lot of football games. It's kind of hilarious, almost ridiculous to hear people saying that Lamar should have thrown the ball a lot more. I think he had 457 attempts across 16 games in the regular season. That's 28.5 passes per game, first of all. Second, a number of those are a number of plays, are pre and post-snap RPOs that are utilized. So Lamar is reading the defense. A particular player could be inside linebacker, could be a overhang nickel defender, could be a defensive end in some cases. And he's deciding whether to hand it off or keep it, throw it, or potentially scramble as the third option there. That provides a lot of variance on the total number of passes in a week or over the course of the season. Some games, based on the average of 28.5, could have been 24 passes attempted. Some games could have been 32. Some of that is dependent upon what the defense does, what they want to take away. Also, a criticism related to that is, when was Lamar supposed to throw more? The Ravens were in the lead so often that we were controlling the clock, sprinkling in pass plays to keep the defense off balance and hopefully retain possession longer, get the clock running, get the game over with, because we're winning. I don't ascribe to nor want us to throw more just to increase his stats. Don't care. And you know what? The cool thing about Lamar is he doesn't care either. The other one that's my favorite is, and I'm going to break this down a little bit, is we should throw more often so that when we are losing late in games, Lamar is more comfortable doing so. Almost like the Rams game didn't happen, where we're down 28-23 against the defense that played much better later in the year, young and fast. Still had Aaron Donald, obviously. He's retired since then. Down 28-23, 4.40 left as we take over at home. On that drive, Lamar converts a 3rd and 4, I think on a hot route to Nelson Aguilar with about 2:50 remaining. Then he hits Zay, obviously, for the go-ahead touchdown on the 3rd and 17 that you saw in this video. Could Lamar be more efficient and effective with 75 more passing attempts? I don't know. I really don't care. Why expose him to more of that if we don't need to? If we're winning the football games, the point is to play complementary football, which the Ravens and the Chiefs do a great job of. Mahomes throws a ton of safe passes that are schemed up for him, meaning either through rub or pick concepts or some type of motion. It's a safe pass to the boundary with very little chance at a negative outcome, like an interception. I would say there is a higher percentage of his throws are safer oriented, schemed up passes than Lamar has ever seen. I'm not saying Mahomes has things made easy for him. He does have times where things are made safer for him, and I think that's a byproduct, or it's related to the Chiefs' defense being so damn good that they trust their defense. Credit to Andy Reid for recognizing, and the coaching staff for recognizing that. Credit to them for being strong enough to go to Mahomes and say, we're not trying to throw 50 touchdowns. We're trying to throw less interceptions. And that's my point, that Lamar had a better season. He still threw 14 last year. They both do a fantastic job of recognizing the situation and limiting exposure to turnovers generally when their defense is in control. I did hear on NFL Plus other players, I don't know what the word is, I don't want to say scared, but a healthy level of respect. Even Tyreek Hill said he hated playing against him. When the same thing applies to Tyreek Hill, obviously, he's a scary guy to watch your defense go up against. And I think he deserved a top spot. He absolutely changes the game by being just on the field. I think he's got 84 or 85 career touchdowns in 8 seasons, so 10 touchdowns per year. That's pretty unbelievable for a guy who, when he came into the league, in the pre-draft process was touted as a return specialist. I think he had 28 catches as a senior at West Alabama. And if you look at what he's done the last 2 years in Miami, 2023, Tyreek Hill had 171 targets, but a 69.6 catch percentage, if memory serves, almost 70. The year before, his first year in Miami, 170 targets, 70% catch percentage. Pretty remarkable to have that much usage and that much efficiency. I understand that's what some Ravens fans are looking for with Lamar. I don't think we've got to throw the ball 600 times with him. If we're getting above 30, 32 throws per game, we're probably losing anyway. So you're kind of forced to throw at that point. I can't really argue with the order of the players or have a problem with it. Mahomes, Lamar, Myles Garrett, Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, TJ Watt, wherever you want to rank them, Josh Allen, fine with me. It would not have bothered me. Tyreek Hill being there at 1, I think is the right call. Because of the guys that I've watched play football in the last 4 or 5 years as I've tried to create content, he's the one that provides me, as a Ravens fan, a ton of fear of how can we keep him from getting the ball. And the thing with Lamar is he's a quarterback. You can't keep him from getting the ball. He's going to have it in his hands on every snap. So credit to the players for being able to recognize how well he played in 2023. And I think the year before he was ranked 72 by the players. Chiefs fans would want Mahomes to be higher after his 3rd Super Bowl win. They do have, in Kansas City, they do have 3 of the top 9 players, which is very remarkable. I get it from a Ravens fan's perspective. We want Lamar to get the credit he deserves. He did, in this case, by the players. It's certain members of the media and people from other fan bases that are decrying him for whatever they are, the playing style. People didn't like him because he didn't have an agent. He didn't get the COVID shot. He's an independent thinker. Doesn't necessarily answer reporters' questions the way that they want him to. He doesn't stay in the box. He kind of answers them how he wants to, in a nice, kind, and professional way, if you ask me. It's working for him. You're now talking about a 2-time MVP, and he's been ranked in the top 2 by his peers twice, once after 2019 and once after 2023. Obviously, the next goal is for the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. You guys let me know if you enjoyed the video, my commentary, and some of the plays that I put together to kind of illustrate his career. I think the Ravens are on track in 2024. Not sure about you, but I'm really looking forward to the first preseason game to just get some film and some things to break down for you guys and try to analyze. Appreciate you guys' time. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this video, this kind of pseudo film study / commentary look at Lamar's career and being named one of the top 2 players in the NFL along with Tyreek Hill, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.